frog or a
I
bullfrog?
feel like it's a medium sized.
Medium.
You know what I mean? Not
A
so.
toad.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. That was no pun
Totally.
intended there. Okay.
That was quick.
Yeah. Sure. All right. So we'll read this intro and then we'll get started. All right, we're glad you're here to listen in on today's formation conversation. Today, we're sitting down with Steve Doerman. If you know Steve, you know he's the kind of guy who can fix just about anything. He runs a home service and repair business built on trust and quality. Today, we'll talk about how God has been restoring and reshaping him. In this conversation, you'll hear about how everyday practices of listening, community with others, and trust are helping him slow down, be present, and push back against fear and worry with faith. So, Steve, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you here today. So we like to start this conversation with just a few quick rapid fire questions. So just
Okay.
give us your initial gut response to
Okay.
these questions, okay?
All right.
So if you could instantly master any skill, what would it be?
I would say the skill of listening and responding, because it's something that the rush of life throughout the years has made bad habits of not taking the time and slowing down and listening and then responding to someone. And of course that leads into compassion and everything else that they're going through, and sharing's a big part of it. So
Right.
yeah,
Listening is such an important skill, but we're never really trained in it, right?
right,
I tell my students, you take classes in reading and writing, but not listening.
correct.
know, and-
And listening is much more than just the voice. It's the body language. It's everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Next question. If you weren't a contractor or handyman,
Okay.
what completely random job would you want?
That would be interesting. I think I've often thought about being a pastor. And that's been, recently. Maybe that could be my exit strategy when I can't lift those large pieces of 3/4 plywood. But I really enjoy studying and the knowledge that I'm getting from each read over and over again. There's always something new in the scriptures. There really is.
There we go.
Yeah.
And it's a completely random job too.
It is.
sometimes.
Absolutely.
Welcome aboard.
Yes.
We'll have you in. What's one question that you love to ask people when you meet them?
I always ask them, of course, what is their interest or what would they like to see? And that's a wide open question, because it's not specifically what do you do for a living. A lot of people don't want to talk about the daily grind or something like that. They want to talk about something that really takes them over the edge as far as their interest. So I always go, what would you like to see, or what do you do like in your off time, or on the weekends, if your weekends are off, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a random question for you. What's the favorite truck that you've ever owned?
The favorite truck that I've ever owned would have to be the truck that I have right now. It's an old 2000 Silverado. It has fairly low miles on it for a Silverado, but it has what's called the LS engine. And if you know anything about Chevrolet engines, they built a perfect engine, and then they decided to change it. Okay, so it doesn't exist today, okay, but mine's still going, and it just absolutely is. Every time I get in and I say, boy, I tell you, this truck really was designed well for what I'm using it for.
So they made the perfect engine,
Yes.
changed it,
Yes,
and now it's no longer perfect.
that's right. Now, for example, this year there's a recall on, I think it's 2018 to 2024 Chevrolet trucks. Over 1 million of them, they're going to have to replace engines. So that could be a huge
What a problem for them.
problem. Yeah.
See, I know nothing about cars and trucks, so a lot of what you just said just went right over my head. But I know our listeners, somebody's going to resonate with you and be like, oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
they totally screwed that up.
Right. Along with the transmissions, and that's what makes it even a bigger problem.
Right. So
Well.
that is a very big problem. It sounds like that they have to fix. But let me ask you about the most unusual thing that you've ever fixed with duct tape.
With duct tape. Okay. Well, I would say it would have to be sometime on camping. I have fixed things with duct tape, whether it be the tent or whether it be the most unusual thing I would say with duct tape, a radiator hose.
A radiator.
Yes. Just keep wrapping it.
Okay. I didn't.
It's not going to seal it, but it'll get you down the road.
I don't think I would recognize a radiator hose, but knowing that I can fix it with duct tape makes me want to keep an extra roll in my car.
Right. Yep. It works well, too, for people that talk too much like me. You can see me wearing the duct tape.
There you go. I've fixed a pair of pants with duct tape before.
There you go.
That happens. So, yeah, very handy tool, right?
Well, I've cut myself to the bone while working on a gutter, and I said, Brian happened to be working with me. He was not yet working here. And so I said, run down and get the paper towel for me, son. He goes to the truck, gets the paper towels. I wrap it in paper towel, and I use duct tape. And he says, we need to go to the hospital, Dad. And I said, I'm really hungry. Mom's got dinner ready. We're going home first. I'll eat, and then we'll go to the hospital.
Priorities.
Right.
Homemade bandage. I love it. So speaking of going home to eat
Yes.
as a priority,
Yes.
which would you rather have here? Dinner with family at home or dinner out with friends?
I would have to say dinner with family at home because Cindy really puts a nice table out and makes it very inviting and homey and almost something like I saw when we were taking the course Practicing the Way and getting together and, having that time, that meal time together. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just about the food, right? It's about the whole environment
Yes.
and the mood and the vibe that you said, right?
Yes.
And I'm sure
But
Cindy does.
in a different part of my life, before kids or grandkids, I should say, the kids, on birthdays, we would take them out to, say, a sushi place over in Oakley or over in Hyde Park. And it was a really good time because it was a packed, small sushi place with a bar that we would just sit in the chairs and just laugh and cut up and have a good time because the place was so loud. So that was nice, too.
Sure.
But to have the choice, I think I'd rather have the real relaxation of the time.
Very nice.
Yes.
And I know you are very avid in your study of scripture. So would you prefer an audio Bible or a paper Bible in your study?
That's a great question, Zach. You harped on something that people don't realize about me. Even though I was destined to go to college, I never went to college because I wanted to get married and I wanted to start in business. And I don't like to read. Isn't that interesting? So I would always, I'm an excellent reader, but I would always choose the audiobook and I like the dramatized audiobooks.
Okay.
So it's something that I absorb it quicker, and I've been told that once you hear it, Steve, you're almost like a photographic learner. Don't tell me your social security number because I'll spit it back to you 4 years later.
So be
Like
careful
my
what you
dad.
say around
Yes.
Steve Doerman.
Because I'll remember it. But it's not that I remember everything, but I have like mile markers that I'll stick in and it'll remember it. I can just pull it up, So I like a social security number.
Yeah.
And they go, how did you remember that? And I just said, I don't know. I could just spit off a number in random,
Impressive brain.
I don't know. I don't think so, but might be a disability.
What's one practice that you'd encourage others to try this week?
The practice that I would encourage to try this week is to stay faithful to your routine, to getting up in the morning if that's your routine, and being having your devotional and being with God in your quiet time. Have a specific place to do that in your home. And as I was saying recently, it's really difficult when people run into different things that interrupt that routine. It could be a dentist appointment that's extra early because you don't want to be late for work. And as soon as you start inserting things, or I would insert things, I wouldn't pick it up the next day, for example, because that was Saturday, for example, or it was a different day. So the routine gets interrupted, and once all of a sudden you have 2 under your belt, you have 3 misses under your belt, and before you know it, you have more than 3, 4, 5, and you say, "I need to get back to that."
Yeah.
So you have to drop something
Right. The
is what you have
domino
to do.
effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm.
So, I did. I, well, was going to a gym, and I just, I said, Look, my job is physical enough, and I'm just gonna drop that gym and, make sure that I do the quiet time with the Lord in the morning."
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll touch back on that here in just a moment. But we do want to hear more about your personal and faith journey. So if you want to catch us up on what have the past couple years in your faith journey looked like?
The past couple years in my faith journey have been reflection on the tests that the Lord has put me through. I had a career, an office career, really in a large corporation, and when that corporation was swallowed by another corporation out of town, they pretty much let all the staff go that was senior management, and they released me, my boss, and everybody else. And to be thrown like that out, and you've been doing it since you were like 18 or 20, then all of a sudden it's scramble time. But what I realized in my faith journey is that um, God was always there and he never left me. But I had a good, strong foundation and we were already coming to White Oak. And I was able to rely on that foundation and be pointed in the right direction in terms of what I needed to do. But there were still many trials ahead. And even though those trials were really, really tough, I look back now and I actually appreciate now those trials. He never left me. He was always there for the family because I needed to provide for the family. And it was a tough thing to go through, but I wouldn't trade it for anything now.
Mm.
And I'm glad it happened.
Yeah. The hindsight is so revealing, isn't it? Of
Yes.
just how God is at work.
Yes.
We don't always see it in the middle of it, right?
Right. You don't see it in the storm,
Hmm.
but sometimes people that have already experienced it and their faith is further along at that point, they see it. Today, every challenge that faces me, it's much different than I reacted then.
Yeah.
It's more like I don't need to do anything. God has it.
So you're talking a little bit about this awareness of what God's up to, right? Paying attention to the rhythms in your life and being more aware of what God's up to. When did that really start to shift for you?
I would probably say in the last 6 years, 6 to 8 years, where that started to shift, where Cindy and I became empty nesters. The kids were all grown and out of the house, and it started to change where I could now have a different perspective when I studied the Bible and when I spent time with God, because I would see things that would relate immediately to my day or what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, it's funny how the season of our life, right?
Yes.
Um, that can impact those rhythms, that we incorporate.
Right. And that's why community is so important. For example, coming to White Oak or going to a life group, you can relate to others that have been through the same thing or actually talk about it and enrich each other's with similar things.
Yeah. So what's one small thing that you do daily that helps you feel close to God?
Um, I would say the small thing that I do daily to get close to God would be after my devotion. I always sit down just to rest and not think about anything. Just to rest. In other words, I spend time with God, then I take a few moments and I don't think about anything. Okay. And then usually I've got it timed out. At the 8 o'clock hour is coming up at that point. So it's just a few minutes before eight. And I've had my devotion. I've had my quiet, very quiet time where I just don't let my brain function or process anything. And then I have to turn the TV on real quick so I catch Julie Grant on Court TV.
That's awesome. So you take intentional rest after time with God. Is that more to kind of process what you have kind of taken in or
Right, because when I'm, doing my devotional, I'm reading, and then I'm processing, and I'm praying, and my brain is thinking. I'm more or less working, but it is not it's physical work in terms of brain, but it makes you a little bit where you just need to rest, just
Yeah.
need to process that,
Yeah.
and just let the processor rest, the CPU's hot, it needs to cool off a little
Mm,
bit.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that. That's really interesting. So, how has your season of life right now, you mentioned you're empty nesters, the kids are grown, you've got grandkids around now.
Yeah.
So, how has your season of life right now affected how you live out your faith?
Well, I'm always looking at them, the grandkids, and always thinking to myself that the season of life that I'm in right now has an impact on them, even though they don't see it. So I have to stay, alert. And at the same time, I have to be a good example to them and ask them a lot of questions so that they can remember grandma and grandpa. And in the case of Louis, Patrick, and Eva, they still have their great grandma and grandpa alive on Cindy's side. So they're 86, and that's sometimes unusual to even remember your great
Mhm.
grandma and grandpa type thing.
So we want to talk about some of the new practices that you're really focusing on and leaning into in this season right now.
Mhm.
So you mentioned that recently you started incorporating practices like listening more deeply. You've mentioned community,
Mhm.
particularly community without an agenda. So can you tell us how those became important to you?
Yes, when I was praying about the Lord commanding us to be disciples, and I was praying about how the culture right now is so hypercharged with opinions and how do I disciple without offending?
Mm,
And so it is a very good question for the Lord, and the Lord always answers. And he always says, just do what I designed you to do. Okay. In other words, listen, you know, it's like Cindy and I have discussed that you don't want to come at a person because the person won't listen if you're discipling. But if you're simply serving them and you are where they are, they're going to observe you and let them ask the questions. But you're still going to serve them regardless.
mm. That's really wise. That's good. And I think there's something about that, community without an agenda.
Hmm.
I love the way that that's phrased. Is that your
Yeah.
kind of wording? Where did that come from?
Well, it comes from the relaxing. It should be talking about Jesus should be relaxing because he says, "My burden is light, my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." Okay, so it's not something that we need to overthink. We just need to simply relax and enjoy it and discuss it.
Hmm. So what does listening look like when you're in a conversation? Like, how do you practice that?
Well, the listening that I do, sometimes I don't do enough of it, and that's what I have to work on. In other words, it's you have to slow down. I have to slow down and take time to listen. But when I'm listening, I'm watching I'm watching how they're saying what they're saying, as well as what they're saying and how deep they want to go. Because sometimes they'll give you clues in what they're saying to you, speaking to you on how deep they want to go into the topic that you're
Mhm.
discussing at the time.
What are some of those clues or those cues that kind of lead you to think, to believe they want to go further?
Well, they'll say, let's talk about the context that that's written in, or what was happening at the time that that was written, or do you think that's applicable today?
Mm,
And most of the time, the answers are yes, yes, yes. In terms of the context at the time was this, which is similar to now. What happened was this, which is precipitory to what could happen again. So, history repeats itself if it's ignored, that type of thing. And so yeah, you look for the clues of what they want to discuss and how deeply they want to go. But when they want to go deeper, you can tell because they'll
mhm.
come back and ask you some more.
Yeah.
If they don't, they'll just gloss over it and then they want to move on.
Yeah. I think having a position of curiosity too, to where
Yes.
you can lean in and say, "Hey, can you say more on that? Yeah,
Yes.
go deeper on that." Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that inviting people into that, you
Exactly.
get a lot more that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
What has it been like to step into that community with no agenda? In other words, when you just show up and are present with them, what has that been like?
I think for for me and whoever it is, them, we actually feel like a family. You don't have to talk to communicate. You feel like you're there for each other, just simply being there for each other. So you really do feel like a brother or a sister. You don't have to make conversation. You're relaxed.
Hmm.
And therefore, everything that is said is truly coming from the heart
Yeah.
because it's off the cuff.
What would you say? Because Steve, you're very easy to have a conversation with.
Okay.
But I know for some people, I've talked with my students about this. Initiating a conversation is intimidating. So
Mhm.
how do you? What advice would you give for someone just trying to be a better conversationalist?
Well, I would say, and the high school that I went to was huge in developing this, is I would say go in with confidence that anything can happen or nothing can happen. Okay. So therefore, there's no fear. There's nothing that's going to cause you or them to be awkward. Okay. Because you're not going to let it be awkward. You're going to either chuckle it off, or you're just gonna say, "It's no big deal. I wouldn't worry about it. I'm definitely not, are you?" You know?
Things are only as awkward as you make them out to be, right?
Exactly.
So, and
So it really is a technique and a skill to
yeah,
think about it.
truly,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But I've never had a problem approaching somebody and just asking them point blank a question,
Hmm.
you know?
That's awesome. So we want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you've been kind of faced with here lately. So one of the things you shared was the choice that you made to give up your Planet Fitness routine so that you could prioritize time with the Lord in the morning. So what went into that decision?
Well, I felt that I was just going through the motions. And when I did the practicing the way in our life group, I really felt like I needed to take it to a deeper level. That's what practicing the way was showing me.
Hmm.
So I started to put those things and really pray about those things and put those things little by little into the morning. I didn't, crash into it. I want it all at once. I wanted to do it little by little so I knew it was solid.
Hmm. Interesting. So you took that piece of your morning routine
Mhm.
and swapped it out for something else.
Mhm.
And then did you mention earlier that you feel like you get enough physical activity with your job and other tasks?
That's correct. So I didn't feel like I could afford to let go of that Planet Fitness gym membership so that I could, concentrate on adjusting the routine and going deeper with the practice, with the rhythms.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it sounds like you've kept to those rhythms.
right,
That's
right.
great.
And well, I found them to be fascinating. I really felt like that they were comprehensive. They really uh, were well thought, well written, and they were real. I mean, it was something that just wasn't laid out there that we'll just put that in our book because we want to see that done. They were a real program
Mhm.
that anyone can do, or adjust to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And and so you went through practicing the way with your group, you adopted and adapted some of your rhythms, it sounds like, to
Mhm.
incorporate some of those. So what kind of challenges do you face in trying to keep that daily rhythm with God? What tends to get in the way for you?
I would say, previous ideas, thoughts, or books, or things that we've done that we've read or done that we go, that's not what we learned last time, but this is a little different. So it's really different takes from, say, an author or something like that. But I really, for example, I can remember Brave at Heart. We did that course here at Wybeck, and that was a great course. But it was more concentrating on the role that a man should play in his family.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's great. But I think in order for the man to play that role, he's already have to have a solid foundation of the rhythms and the practicing the way attributes that were taught. So you look back and you go, I see how it all dovetails. But sometimes throughout our life, it doesn't chronologically get put into place right down the line.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly there. That so what gets in the way of some of those of keeping some of those rhythms is kind of some of the other rhythms or the other content that you kind of encountered before and how that jives or doesn't jive? Is that what we're
Yeah, in other words, I always like to divert back to the Bible
okay.
because, um, I always say it's great, and I say this, within my family, it's great to read other books, and Practicing the Way is a great book, but make sure it doesn't take you away from the scripture and how you're interpreting that, and that's why I'm a believer in getting a study
Okay.
Bible.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to those rhythms that you've adopted,
Mhm.
have there been things that have maybe made it difficult to maintain that rhythm? Is there anything that's kind of become sort of a distraction that you've had to field?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, just life itself. You're going to have different things happen at different times in the day. So if you have early morning appointments, it really does mess up your rhythm of your routine
Mhm.
in the morning. But not sure how to answer that one really.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like from what you said earlier, you've really tried to protect that rhythm in the morning to eliminate as many possible distractions as possible, for that.
Right.
Does that sound
That sounds,
yeah,
yeah, accurate. It's,
okay.
I strive for it, and more often than not, I do it. But then there's always that distraction that you just have to go ahead and break that rhythm for that morning,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah, I love hearing that because you're right. A lot of things can happen, a lot of distractions can take place, but if we commit to it and make it a priority, then, you know, the a lot of those distractions can kind of become, non-existent,
Right.
or
Yeah.
non-issues at that point.
You're relevant. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've talked about a little bit about fear and worry and trust. So you said before that fear and worry are the devil's biggest tools against us. Can you say more on that?
Yeah, the older I get, and I was sharing this recently, I think it comes with maturity, but fear is really the only thing that the devil, Satan, has against us. And using that fear because he wants to create anxiety, he wants to create separation from God, he wants to create insecurity, and he's going to use fear to do that. Whether it's fear of not being able to provide because of a job loss, or whether it's fear of just the world in itself and sometimes how violent it can be, or how dangerous it can be. But at the same time, we have a responsibility to seek that out and be an example to that world. So we don't want to cower back. We want to go out into the world and we want to disciple people and be an example. So, but I've already shared about court TV, so you can see the danger in the world.
Sure.
But at the same time, I have just went to a party just this past weekend, and there was a man there, and he and I hit it off right away. We just clicked. And he goes over to at a church in Norwood, and he once we talked about an hour at this party. I kind of hogged him up from everybody else, but once we talked about an hour, he revealed to me that he had been in prison and he was part of a gang. And I said, that is very fascinating. We ended up talking another 2 hours. So I really got his number, and I really feel like I can just call him. He runs a towing and auto recovery business as well as repair. So, we traded stories about mechanical issues. So,
Sure.
yeah,
And some life stories along the way, I'm sure.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
When in your life have you really seen God step in and remind you that you don't need to live in worry?
I would say that was when I was laid off and I realized that I had to give it to God. I couldn't do it myself. And when I gave everything to God, I just felt the weight off of my shoulders just completely go away. And again, it was really a lot of time, or it had a lot to do with White Oak, because when Cindy and I and the family came to White Oak in 1999, Brad Canning had invited me to become part of the youth. And I sat on my deck and I told him, "You've got the wrong guy." Because I was climbing the corporate ladder at the time at the office job that I described. And I said, "You've got the wrong guy." And he said, "No, I've prayed about it and you're the right guy." Little did I know that what he was getting me involved in not only spoke to the kids as we learned together, but it spoke to me and it
Mm,
fortified my foundation. And so when the storms came in 2006 and the layoff, I had a foundation I could rely on.
mm,
Not to say that I didn't sometimes slip into doubt and had fear, but I would grab a hold of the Lord and he would reassure me that he's got this. And so as through the years, of course, I had aging parents at that point, so we were taking care of our aging parents, and the Lord was showing me that I needed to honor my parents at that point of time where I've always honored them, but I needed to step up and honor them in their elderly years. So I did that through 2010, and as the time passed and the years started to mellow me, that's when I realized I I don't need to worry or have any fear. And I've always been a guy, my daughter Monica can tell you this. I've always been a guy that I don't fear anything that looks scary. Okay. For example, you know, a haunted house at this time of year likes to scare me and, or likes to scare anyone, right? But we don't get scared. She and I, Brian, we don't get scared because I often spoke about doing spiritual battle. That's what it's like. You're going to see a very ugly Satan to make you fear him.
mm,
Okay. And so if you're in spiritual battle, that's what would happen. And I just do not fear Satan at all. I don't care if, and I always said to the kids, it's just latex. It's all make believe here on earth, in
mm,
terms of the haunted houses and things. But yeah, I'm not trying to make haunted houses a part of my story here, but it does go to fear though. And fear is something that Satan will use anywhere, any place. Fear of loss, fear of, fear of losing your relationship, say in a marriage, fear of anything. Satan will try to use anything to get a toehold to split you away from where you need to be with the Lord.
yeah. So, how has practicing presence with God helped you push back against that fear and that worry that Satan will use?
Um, well, it has because we're guaranteed and we're told and we're loved that the war is already won. The battle is won, the war is won. God
Mm,
wins. We know it. We're confident in it. And so we have nothing to fear. As I grow older, people can either age gracefully and not fear death, okay? Or as I see it, every day is a new day. Every day above ground is a great day. I think Pitbull said, you know. But uh, here's the thing: every day that I breathe anew, when I wake up in the morning and say to myself and to God, "What can I do for you today, God?" Okay, that's what starts my day. I don't have any fear. I could die today. Okay, that would be great. That's the way I look at it.
mm,
Prepare what you need to prepare here for your loved ones, but that would be great.
mm. Wow, I just need to, like, kinda take a moment, because so many people I'm thinking about, so many people, myself included, just there's so many things to fear.
Mhm.
You're right, how often that's used against us in our spiritual lives, but you speak with such a confidence and assurance, against that fear. Um, yeah, I ju how do I get some of that?
Well, yeah, and the only way that we get it is from reading the scriptures, the Bible, because
Mm,
how many times does he say, "Fear not, fear not, don't worry, fear not."
yeah.
Nothing can hurt you, truly hurt you. And as I get older, and I'm thinking, I'm 64 now, and I'm thinking to myself, uh, you know, if something happened to me tonight, so what? How old was I going to be when I died at another time, 80s, 90s. Is 20 or 30 years of time that much time in the grand scheme of eternity? You know, the old lesson about the rope, and here's where you lived on the rope. You're just at the end of the rope, and the rest of the rope is eternity, you know.
Mm.
And back to the foundation, I was saying about, tough times and trials. Um, the pastor, the staff here at White Oak did a great job in preparing my heart for trials and tribulations, in the fact that I heard a sermon once that people come to the Lord during a crisis. Okay, we're faced with a crisis. They come to the Lord, and it is true. It's what drives us closer to the Lord because we need the Lord. So those messages, things like that, really stick with you,
Mhm.
and they really you reach back and you think, wow, it actually is being utilized right now, So whether it's fear, like was said recently or last Sunday, with what's happening in our culture right now, is there's a lot of fear and
Mhm.
there's a lot of anxiety, and people are asking and people are seeking and searching, and it's a great thing because it's driving them back to church.
Mhm. Mhm. In your own story, it sounds like you've mentioned a lot of the times God was going before you and preparing the way, and even along the way, there have been a lot of these little reminders, these moments where God reminds you that he's present, right?
Mhm.
Can you tell us about one of those that still sticks with you today?
That God is always present. Well, when things look bleak, I was sharing this story recently. When my mom was diagnosed with cancer, okay, fourth stage, she had 2 weeks to live, and it was mantle cell lymphoma. We went down, the two brothers, I and dad went down to pray at the chapel, and we came back and opted for the chemotherapy that was being offered, even though it was brand new. I mean, within 2 weeks or 4 weeks, this new Velcade drug was brand new. And here, um, she ends up going into remission from that, treatment. And I would have bet the farm she lived another 10 years, and I would have bet the farm that dad would have lived in the 10 years, but he goes with a massive heart attack about 8 years later, and she lives another 6 years. So, we don't know what's going to happen, but the way is prepared for us, and we need to have confidence and peace in that, so it's really it's peaceful.
Yeah.
It's relaxing.
So in that, were there moments in that where God showed up and just gave you that reminder that he was present the whole time?
Yes, I was sharing a story, with Kyle that, there was an instance where, when mom was put into remission, they were at Home Depot getting something for the house, both mom and dad, and, they were going past the cashiers. I call it contestants row, where you walk past all the cash registers and then go out the
Mhm.
door. And they were coming down that little row, and some homeless guy walks in, she says, from the parking lot. I wasn't there. Homeless guy walks in from the parking lot and stands right in front of mom and dad and stopped them and said to mom, "Do you know that you've been healed from your cancer?" And she said, "Why, yes, I do know that. Thank you." And she was just kind of taken aback because she didn't know how he knew. And then he turned around and walked away. And at that very moment, mom called me and said, some guy on dad's cell phone, some guy just walked up to me and said, "Did you know your mom's been cured of cancer?" I said, "That's interesting, mom." And then all of a sudden I get a beep from another call coming in, which is a little unusual, right? So I look and it's my brother Glenn. Now he lives over in Hyde Park, and he was over in Oakley shopping at the Meyer store. And so I saw the beep on my phone. I answered. I said, "What's up, Glenn?" And I still had mom on hold. And he said, "I was in the parking lot at Meyer. I'd just come out with my purchases and my stuff loaded in the car. And this homeless guy walks up to me and says, 'Did you know that your mother has been cured
Stop.
of cancer?'" And I said that very thing. "No, you're kidding me," like that. He says, "No, I'm serious. It happened." And I said, "Virtually," and I looked at my watch, the same time. So
Wow.
we just got tingly, and I just said, that's the Lord. That's an angel. That's the Lord. There was some that homeless person was something. And it's like I said, it was a homeless person, okay? That doesn't, he's not dressed up. He doesn't look like a contractor. He looked like a homeless person. And yet he would be the one that God would send
To deliver the
to
message.
deliver the message. I'm so impressed
Huh.
with the Lord.
Wow. Yeah, that's not a little sign that God's present. That's a big.
Right. It is. That's big.
That's bold. That's
Right.
great.
Right.
Wow.
And I've never doubted the Lord since then, meaning that his existence, his reality, that he's right there, that I can talk to him every day. He's right here with us. He's the God that created this universe, and he created every single thing, every speck in it. Do we not think that he would know every hair on our head and know every thought before we say it? He's greater than that. Actually, we feel kind of puny because he's so great.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad he breathed into us.
Yeah.
He created us.
Wow. Well, Steve, we want to get practical and
Okay.
really pick your brain for some advice for the rest of us, right?
Okay.
So for someone who may be listening, who says, I want to grow in these practices, but I just don't know where to start, what would you encourage them to do first?
Well, first, I would encourage them just to come and get comfortable with, the church that they're going to, White Oak, if they've chosen White Oak, where they're at. Just get comfortable coming and learning with the people. And then listen to what the staff is telling you, the pastors are saying. Get connected to your life group, because you're going to need that community in order to search together and to bounce questions off of and feel loved, feel cared for. And so that would be the second thing. The first thing would be come routinely. The second thing would be, join a life group, get into community slowly or quickly, whatever you want to do. You go at your own speed when it comes to the person and the Lord. So just like any parent would do with their child. So you go at your own speed, and then once you're connected, okay, into a group, and you're making relationships, and of course you're building. The first thing you do is, as you're coming to church and making it a routine, you're reading the scripture yourself and developing, either for the first time or deepening your relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. I mean, it's absolutely imperative to do that, because there's so much there that you don't have to overthink it. All you have to do is relax and read it or listen to it and let it come in. Yeah.
You've spoken a lot about the fear and worry, and I think that, like you said, that's something that's a lot of us, especially in our current culture, are really facing. It seems like you have a pretty good handle on it. So how could we take one small step this week to push back against fear and worry with our faith?
I would say always put your hope out in front of yourself with Jesus Christ. In other words, you are focusing on Jesus Christ being in front of you. He goes first, and he takes whatever is going to come after you, or come to you, or come at you first. So you're depending on him, you're trusting in him, you are absolutely acknowledging that he is real and he's right here with me and he's listening. And the relationship is really what is needed to be developed, is needed.
So you've established some really good rhythms within your spiritual life and your spiritual journey. Is there a simple rhythm, like a really simple, easy to kind of get started rhythm that you think anyone could begin right away?
Mm-hmm. Be more quiet and listen.
Ooh.
And that's something that I've had to do. It's been hard for me to do, because I do like to converse and be a conversationalist, but it's something that absolutely gives genuine peace, and also allows the person that you're being quiet with to be either quiet with you or bring up something out of the blue.
Yeah. And I think when we're quiet, it also gives us an opportunity to be a learner, right? And have that learning mindset, which is very much a posture of humility.
Exactly.
I love that.
I recently did a remodel on a house, and it was a rental. So we were working for the landlord. And I learned of this fella that moved in with his new wife. And that's what we were doing, was doing the bathroom as quick as we could because the bathroom needed remodel. And they had already moved in. And I watched him early in the morning as he got up and prepared for his day. He had a special table set in the house. It was a house really that he was renting. And he had a special table set in the living room. And he had everything he needed to do his devotional and quiet time. Okay. So I asked him, and he had gone to Hillsdale, and he was very intentional about everything that he did. And it really impressed me and made an impression on me where I wanted to do the things that he did as well. So he was showing me, and I needed to be quiet, listen, and observe. Okay, and so I took that back, and I decided to employ many of those things, and it really has struck me. In other words, the scriptures being holy are so high that many times throughout the scripture, and what he was telling me at his church is when they enter the back of the church, they hold the Bible that they bring in as high as they can get it and walk down the middle of the aisle and then put it on the lectern. And I was like, wow, that struck me. That struck me as an ultimate respect and love, and it's just a very good thing that he shared with me. But it wouldn't have been shared unless I took the time to listen, and he just brought it up out of the blue.
Steve, what's one key thing that you hope people listening to our conversation today, that you would hope they would take away from listening today?
I would say the one key thing is wherever you are right now in your walk, or you haven't started your walk yet, but wherever you are, God already knows where you are, and you are where you're supposed to be at this point in time. But now he is opening the door and showing the way he wants you to go. So open your eyes and ears and attention and be open to it.
Steve, you've given me a lot to think about today. I think I appreciate you coming and sharing your stories and your perspective and just what God is teaching you and how he's forming you here. And you're already a pastor, it sounds like.
I don't know about that, but I have a lot of studying to do, I think. But
oh, man, we all do.
Yeah.
But again, thank you for being here and for sharing with us.
Yeah, very much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All good?
Survive the hot seat.
Yep. All right.